Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I pretty much went Annihilape hunting in the Ultra League because I still haven't been able to build one. I'm still looking for one that has very specific IVs. I have good ones that are really highly ranked for Ultra League and for Great League, but I don't want to build those because I don't want an Annihilape with like really low attack because I don't want to lose CMP. So I'm still looking for a good one. Don't want to invest in one yet. So instead, I decided let's go hunting for them. Let's build an entire team that is going to be really good against Annihilape because everyone's so hyped about it now and everyone's going to want to use it. And I didn't think this team would perform as well as it did, but I almost hit Legend with this team. You'll see at the end of the video, I was just 9 points off. So while I climbed so much with this team, I don't think I can recommend it because this team is weak to so many things. It's core broken by so many Pokemon. The backline is extremely weak to Registeel if you're not able to align your Talonflame to the Registeel. The whole team's kind of weak to Galvantula and Ampharos, and the team struggles quite a bit against Tentacruel as well, although I was able to win some matches against Tentacruel. But I think the reason I went really positive with this team is because of how many people are running Annihilape and Poliwrath. And guess what? Annihilape's counters are also Poliwrath's counters. So it did pretty well. The team is Talonflame on the lead with 2 answers in the back to water types. So Golisopod is usually going to be your safe swap, depending on what lead you see. And then you have Cress in the back with Grass Knot and Moonblast. You need that Grass Knot again because your lead is going to be very weak to to water types. I should say this team also really struggles against Shadow Dragonite. Most of the games I got with Shadow Dragonite, I just lost. But yeah guys, we climbed so much with this team. I don't think this is the team that's going to get me across the finish line because I did play 2 more sets after I reached 2991, which is just 9 points away from Legend. And well, unfortunately, I lost those 2 sets 2-3 each. But it wasn't too bad of a drop. I'm still very much in range of Legend. I'm going to try again tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. But I think I'm going to change the team. But that's enough out of me. You guys heard my warnings. If you still want to try the team, go for it. Just watch out. You could run into those hard counters, and I'm sorry if you do. Anyways, let's get into these battles. These are some really good ones. Up first, we are going to see one of the core breakers I mentioned, which is going to be Tentacruel. I'm going to weaken it with this fly, and then I'm going to swap out into my Golisopod, and Golisopod can hit for neutral with the Shadow Claws and with the Aerial Aces, but my opponent goes ahead and Acid Sprays and dips. They dip into a Virizion though, which is not an answer to Golisopod. I'm going to be able to hit it with Aerial Ace, which is going to be doing so much damage to this grass and fighting type. So we're going to be able to take the Virizion out with our Golisopod. Unfortunately, we do get farmed down by the Tentacruel, but I can bring my Cresselia in here. I think my opponent thought I might have Future Sight, so they went ahead and they top lefted. Take a guess what might have been in the back. I have no idea. I'm going to guess another fighter. Maybe it was Tentacruel Double Fighter? I don't know. Who knows? I never saw. But hey, at least I was able to take care of that hard counter. Anyways, moving on to the next team, we are going to see a Cresselia on the lead. Now, usually this would be a good lead. However, Cresselia is usually running Future Sight these days, so I'm going to go ahead and shield my Talonflame, and because they were staying in, I figured they might be running Future Sight. So I went ahead and shielded, and I'm actually going to shield twice because Future Sight hurts Talonflame a lot. Now I'm just going to go for another Flame Charge, again, buffing my attack. And let's see if I can farm this Cresselia down. They don't let me, they swap into a Jellicent, but this fly is double buffed, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it on the Jellicent. We take their first shield, and will this fly get a second shield? It does. My opponent has no shields left. I'm going to bring Golisopod in now. Unfortunately, I do have to take the Shadow Balls, but I am going to go for these Aerial Aces, which are going to be neutral, and the Shadow Claw is going to be super effective. At least if I can get this Jellicent to be low, then I should be in an okay spot. So the Jellicent is pretty low now. I think I can come in with Cress and farm it down. Yes, but my opponent reaches a Shadow Ball, so I am going to have to take this on Cresselia. Let's hope whatever my opponent has in the back, the energy I have on Cresselia is going to be useful. They have a Cobalion in the back. I really have to watch out for Stone Edge on this thing. That will one-shot my Talonflame. I'm gonna go for these Moonblasts on this Cobalion. Unfortunately, they are not doing a lot of damage, I'm gonna need one more, but I also have to watch out for a catch, and my opponent went for that catch, but I played it really risky here. I threw the Grass Knot, and instead what I should have done is I should have swapped into Talonflame and gone for an Incinerate, and then my opponent would be forced to throw their energy on Talonflame. I would still have that energy for the Moonblast on my Cress, and I would be able to take that game, but my opponent could have gone for a Sacred Sword there and taken us out. And then I might have had to take that Stone Edge on Talonflame, so I played it a little risky there. But up next, we are going to see a Greedent on the lead, and Greedent is a little bit annoying for this team. It is super spammy, and these Body Slams are going to start adding up on Talonflame. Also, Golisopod doesn't have a good matchup against Greedent because it is using that really resisted Shadow Claw, and Cresselia is going to be taking super effective from the crunches. So I'm going to have to start using shields here. But, okay, so this is what happens, and this actually saves me. I tapped the shield, but for some reason the game didn't let me shield there, and I take the Body Slam on Talonflame. We do live, however, and I'm able to get the fly off on the Giratina, and we're able to get it low. So now I can bring Cresselia in against Giratina. I just have to hit it with a Moonblast and then go for a Grass Knot, and this should be enough to take it out. We're able to take the Giratina out, and then we have Cresselia up against Greedent. And I go for a Grass Knot on the Greedent, but my opponent shields. So actually here, I was able to catch the crunch, which is really good. And here I'm starting to think that my opponent might have a fighter in the back because of how they're playing it. Because they shielded that Grass Knot and they saved their Greedent, they might have something that is weak to Cresselia in the back. So I'm guessing it's going to be a fighter. And can we guess which fighter it is? Oh, look who it is. It is Annihilape. This is exactly what I was looking for with this team because this entire team counters Annihilape. Wait until he sees what I have in the back. He is going to be really surprised. But I went ahead and I shielded here because I had the Moonblast. And also I went for a catch on the Ice Punch just to annoy my opponent because I knew he was going to throw the Ice Punch immediately. But as soon as my opponent sees the Golisopod, he top lefts. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next match, we are going to see a Shadow Alolan Sandslash on the lead, and my opponent is choosing to stay in, which is a very interesting choice because these Incinerates are doing so much to it, and my opponent then swaps into a Deoxys. I am going to go for a move, and then I'm going to swap into Cresselia. I went for a move just to weaken it a bit, but as soon as my opponent sees Cresselia, they top left. I guess another fighter in the back, maybe? Might have been Annihilape, actually. Maybe. That makes sense in that team. On to the next match, we are going to see a Clefable on the lead. Really nice lead for us, and my opponent swaps Annihilape into Talonflame. I'm gonna go for a Fly because this does so much damage. I think it one-shots also, this Annihilape, because Annihilape is not that tanky. And here I didn't shield because I got baited by an Ice Punch earlier, so I thought it might be a bait, but my opponent went straight for that Shadow Ball. Anyways, I was able to bring Golisopod in and outpace to a move. I was able to take it out with the Aerial Ace, and my opponent is going to bring Clefable back in here. So I actually go ahead and I shield the Moonblast because I have a feeling my opponent has something else in the back that is going to be weak to Golisopod. Might be Clefable double fighter, that's what I was thinking, or it would be Clefable, Swampert, and a fighter. But look who it is! It's Poliwrath! I am absolutely making the lives of my opponents who want to run fighters a nightmare right now. I feel bad, but at the same time, I'm kind of like salty, I guess you could say, because I haven't built an Annihilape yet, and also I'm sick and tired of seeing Poliwrath everywhere. So I was happy that this team was working. Anyways, on to the next match. Ooh, this is a good one. We see a Shadow Swampert on the lead. I immediately swap into Golisopod, and we see the big core breaker to this team, Tentacruel. I'm just going to go for these Aerial Aces, which are going to be hitting for neutral. Let's see if my opponent decides to Acid Spray me. They don't. They go for a Scald, and we get the attack drop, unfortunately, so these Aerial Aces are going to be doing a lot less damage to this Tentacruel now. So I'm just going to try to do as much damage as I can before I faint, but my opponent actually lets me get to another Aerial Ace, and this might actually KO the Tentacruel, so we're able to take a shield from them. And here I see that I can completely farm this Tentacruel down and have a move for Swampert. So I went ahead and I no-shielded the first Scald. I know I can live it, and then I shielded the second one. Now I almost have 2 flies for the Swampert. I'm able to land the first one, and then I swap into Cress, and my opponent is going to go for a move here. I am predicting Hydro Cannon. It is Hydro Cannon. It does quite a bit of damage, but that's okay. I go for a Grass Knot and my opponent shields, so I'm starting to think that my opponent might be weak to Cress in the back. It could be a fighter. Oh look, it's Poliwrath again. I'm actually curious to know how the Annihilape and Poliwrath matchup goes, if it's any good for Poliwrath. But anyways, I'm just going to go for a Grass Knot here, and it puts the Poliwrath at 1 HP, so I see an opportunity here to sneak in and Incinerate, which is what I need to reach Fly on Talonflame and take the Swampert out. Talonflame wins CMP over Swampert, so I'm able to take that win. GG's to our opponent. That was a team with 2 really good counters for what I had, by the way. I do battle the same trainer later with another team, and I lose, and maybe that's a sign I should stick with this team. But up next, we are going to see a Garian Weezing on the lead, which is a really good lead for us, and my opponent safe swaps into Poliwrath. I'm going to go for Fly before swapping out into Golisopod. Now I swap Golisopod because Golisopod is going to be resisting everything from Poliwrath. I'm going to go for an Aerial Ace before my opponent can debuff me again. Unfortunate that I have to take that debuff from the Poliwrath, but I made the right choice bringing Golisopod into Poliwrath because now I have Cress for this Lantern. My opponent is going to have Lantern in the back, and I can only hit it with Liquidation with this Golisopod, unfortunately. But I can bring Cresselia in here, and these Thunderbolts are going to do absolutely nothing to Cress. Look at that, it took it like a champ. And then my opponent is going to bring Weezing back in, and of course, I'm going to bring Talonflame, and all they can do is Brutal Swing me. I'm going to let the first 2 go, and then I'm going to start shielding. I'm going to go for a Flame Charge to buff my attack in case I'm not going to be able to take the Weezing out with a charged move because they still have 2 shields. And now I should start shielding here. And now I'm just going to go for these flies because I can reach the flies a lot faster than I can reach the Flame Charges. And I predicted that my opponent was going to swap back into Lantern here, so I immediately swap into Cress. I'm going to be able to go for these Grass Knots and take the Lantern out. Actually, it lives with 1 HP, but we're able to farm it down. And now I should be able to land a Moonblast on this Weezing. I shield the first Brutal Swing, go for a Moonblast, and then my opponent is going to be able to reach another move before I take it out with the Psycho Cuts. I don't know if they had enough energy for an Overheat there. I think if they went Overheat, they would have been able to take us out. On to the next match. It looks like my opponent is already Legend, so they are going to be trying out Spice. They lead Galarian Zapdos, and then they swap into Regis. And Regis is not an answer for Talonflame because Talonflame is going to be doing super effective with its Fire-type moves against this Ice-type. So I go for the Flame Charge on the first move, and then I go for a Fly on the second move, and I'm actually able to take both of my opponent's shields. They take both of my shields as well, but I really want to win this switch. And I was able to farm the Regis down completely and have a lot of energy for the Tentacruel. Again, the Core Breaker, but because I have so much energy on Talonflame, I'm able to take out most of its health, and then my opponent just has Zapdos against our Cresselia, so they top left. GG's to our opponent, but mad respect for the Spice. Moving on to the next match, we are going to see a Talonflame lead. Now here's something about my Talonflame. It wins CMP over most Talonflames. It will win CMP over the Hundo. It is a 98. It's going to be 15, 14, 15, but it's buddy boosted. So being level 50.5 gives it a little bit more attack over the Hundo. Now my opponent is going straight Flame Charge, which is boosting the attack of their Incinerates. So they're doing a little bit more fast move damage to me than I am to them. However, I'm going to be outpacing to the moves, so I'm able to reach 2 more flies and they let the second and the third one go. So I'm able to get rid of the Talonflame, which is really good because Talonflame's kind of tricky for my backline, especially Cresselia without Future Sight. But my opponent brings in Umbreon, and at least I was able to land a move from the Talonflame on the Umbreon before I was KO'd, and that put them at half health, which is going to be okay for me. If this Umbreon had any more health, my backline would have had such a hard time. I'm going to be able to go for a Moonblast, and it's not enough to KO, so I'm going to catch the next Foul Play on my Golisopod to preserve the health on my Cresselia, and then I am going to go for a move before my opponent can reach another Foul Play. And my opponent has an Annihilape in the back, so between Golisopod and Cresselia, I should be able to take care of the Annihilape, and I also have a shield left, so I can shield my Golisopod or I can shield my Cress. I choose to shield my Golisopod. I'm gonna go for an Aerial Ace. It's not enough to KO, but my opponent is going to go for a Night Slash here. I almost have a move on Cresselia, so I bring it in immediately, and I go for that Grass Knot. We're able to take the Annihilape out and take that game. Moving on to the next match. Oh, you have a shiny Annihilape. How nice for you. So sad that you have to run into my team. We are going to lead Talonflame into Annihilape, gonna go for a Fly, and they let it go. So yes, I can confirm the Fly does one-shot the Annihilape, and my opponent brings in Giratina. I'm going to go for Fly, and then I'm going to swap into Cresselia, and I'm gonna let whatever these moves are go, and my opponent then swaps out into Gramble, and Cresselia is actually very tanky, so these charms are not going to be doing that much damage. I'm gonna be able to reach 2 moves on the Gramble, take their first shield, and then the second one, they let it go. They're going to go ahead and throw a move before I reach the Grass Knot, and we're going to be able to come in with Talonflame, farm the Gramble down, have so much energy for this Giratina. I'm going to let this go because I saw that they have Shadow Sneak and they don't have Ancient Power. I live the Dragon Claw, going to go for a Fly, that gets them into the red, and now I'm just going to bring Golisopod in, farm the Giratina down, and take that win. GG's to our opponent. Now, I'm watching these matches back and I'm thinking that maybe I should stick to this team because it was doing so well, but when I saw Registeel or Shadow Dragonite, I really struggled. Moving on to the next match, we're going to see a Talonflame lead. This person gets it. They were also hunting for the Annihilape. This team kind of struggles actually against Charizard a little bit because you're going to have to deal with the Charizard with Talonflame. So that's another option that people are picking to counter Annihilape. Now my opponent swaps into Giratina, and this is where I messed up. I should have swapped into Golisopod instead of Cresselia because of what they have in the back. And I had already weakened the Giratina with a Fly, so the Golisopod would have actually had a pretty decent matchup up against this Giratina, especially now that I see it doesn't have Ancient Power. So I messed up there. If I took this win, I would have reached Legend. This was the one win standing between me and Legend. You'll see how close this game gets. I mess up on the swap. That's basically it. And also, there was no way for me to predict what my opponent had in the backline. Their backline was very unpredictable. So I'm gonna bring Talonflame back in, and my opponent catches the Fly on a Guzzlord. Guzzlord is a little bit problematic for this team. If you align the Cresselia to the Guzzlord, the Moonblasts are absolutely going to hurt. But now I have a Golisopod up against Guzzlord, and the Aerial Aces are not going to be doing enough to take this Guzzlord out. I'm gonna go for another Aerial Ace. Let's see how low it gets it. It gets it really low. I was hoping here that one Incinerate would take this Guzzlord out, but my opponent swaps, and for some reason, their Guzzlord lives. Actually, yeah, it makes sense. It's a 3-turn move versus a 5-turn move, so the damage isn't going to register. But they save that Guzzlord, and then they're able to take my Talonflame out with a Dragon Tail. Kind of sad because I could have reached Legend, but it's okay, we're still going to get there. I have faith. On to the next match, and this is probably the hardest match I've ever played in my life. We're going to be up against a Helioptile, and it looks like we're going to be up against someone who is tanking, so I get a free win. That's nice. It's nice to get a free win every once in a while. And that gives us 4 wins in that set. If I just had one more win, I would have reached Legend, but it's okay. I know I'm going to be able to reach it soon. Hopefully tomorrow. We'll see. But that brings us to the end of my video. If you guys like my videos, please consider subscribing, maybe leave a like. It helps me out so much. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!